Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Mark's Side of the Ring. Bumper packed one today as well, so we've got all five of us here to share the love. There's myself, Mike Norris, we've got David Charlton, Kev Northup, Peter Handy, and of course Robbie Barnes. How are we all doing, guys?
All good, yeah. Yourself?
I'm alright, I'm great, and you know, so much to get through today, and I think this is the nature of kind of the world of wrestling sometimes, that sometimes we're going to have a lot to talk about, sometimes there's sort of quieter times, but it seems like there is like absolutely loads and loads to get stuck into on today's episode of Mark's Side of the Ring. So again, we've got our wrestling news to talk about. We've got to catch up with our Fastlane predictions. And of course, which is probably something that I'm really quite excited about, to be perfectly honest, that over here in the UK, biggest wrestling convention in the UK, For the Love of Wrestling, just before we came on air, announced 8 of their guests for next year. Now, I think me and Robbie have already booked hotels and told family that we're going. We're pretty kind of excited for this one. I actually don't know any of the guests, so in a little bit I'm going to hand it over to Robbie, who watched the live feed, and he's going to kind of get our initial reactions for all of the guests. But of course, other than that, in the world of wrestling, there's always absolutely loads to talk about. So I think the first part of all of this, the first way to get stuck in, is to do our wrestling news as usual. And because if you look on our social media channels, Peter's known as our breaking news correspondent, which is a fantastic title. I'm going to hand responsibilities over to Peter. So do you want the catchy news music, or do you just want to go for it?
Yeah. I need the music.
Awesome.
I need the vibe.
You see, it didn't work last week, Joys of Technology. So maybe it was trying to tell me it was time to hand the reins over. I don't know. But let's see how we go. So here is the breaking news from our breaking news correspondent, Peter Handy. Here we go.
Packed week in the crazy world of pro wrestling kicked off in the first PLE of the TICO era with WWE Fastlane and AEW Collision. Notable moments from last Saturday including 2 brand new sets of tag team champions with Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes coming out on top against the Judgment Day and Big Bill and Ricky Starks versus FDR. We also got our first look at Jade Cargill and a brief backstage appearance. We also had the Tuesday Night Wars where NXT and AEW went head-to-head for the first time since Dynamite was last preempted in 2022. On this occasion, NXT came out on top with 921,000 viewers against AEW 609,000 viewers. This marked the first time in NXT reached 900,000 viewers since November of 2019. Plenty of online discourse ensued as a result of this, and we'll be getting into this minus tribalism later in the show. We're now 3/4 of the way through 2023, and it won't be a week in wrestling without rumours around the Second City Saint himself, CM Punk, with reports indicating that the last forbidden door has been closed, as WWE have stated at this time there is no intention to bring in CM Punk, in the hope that this tempers fan expectation ahead of Survivor Series in November. So why WWE would need to worry about this, as it's not like wrestling fans to jump to conclusions. Elsewhere, Wrestling Convention For the Love of Wrestling announced the first 8 guests for their event on the 2nd and 3rd of March of 2024 at the BC Arena in Manchester a little while ago. Guests have been teased over the last couple of days via cryptic picture on their Facebook page. However, in this case, cryptic is a euphemism for a Russo swerve, because I'll be damned if I could work some of them out, or maybe I'm just a little dumb. And finally, we move back to WWE with the season premiere of SmackDown, where the Tribal Chief has returned. His whereabouts have been the topic of discussion for some time with our very own Mike Norris on the case. Wherever he may have been, he at the very least made a stop to pick up some Just for Men based on Paul Heyman's hair alone. We also got the first TV look at Jade Cargill in a brief stare down with Charlotte Flair. Kevin Owens returned to SmackDown in the final part of the Jey Uso trade, and Nick Aldis made his TV debut as the new SmackDown GM. Reported Aldis will be what to scream, "War Games!" a la William Regal in that beautiful English voice, or rapidly growing pace. This was not a Cody and Jay presser, but that was the news, and this is Mark's Side of the Ring.
You're much better than me. I think this is a regular. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think that's your role now, but pinned pinned down. So yeah, I mean, loads to go through there, absolutely loads, and you know, obviously we're going to talk about For the Love of Wrestling shortly, and I think all of that stuff that we've touched on there, we're even going to touch on Just for Men, believe it or not. But you know, it's interesting that you dropped that in. You'll see why later. But yeah, I mean, let's start. I think it makes sense to start with Fastlane. We'll try and move forward a bit, sort of chronologically, if you like. So obviously, we all predicted our Fastlane predictions, and I've got to tell you, mind, I watched it kind of the day after we'd recorded, and for me, shocking night for me in terms of predictions. I mean, how's everybody else feeling about their Fastlane predictions? Can they remember what they said? Does anybody feel they were onto a winner?
I'm feeling confident. I think I got one wrong. I think I might be wrong.
I mean, as I recall, Robbie, I think you had a good night. Mm-hmm. I remember because it's funny because even Kayla, my wife, was saying to us, because obviously she knows that we do this. She watches the show. Like halfway through Fastlane, she was like, "So how's everybody doing?" So, and I was like, "Well, I tell you, I'm doing absolutely shocking." So I'll see if we can bring up the Wrestle Profit screen. I know that last week there were all sorts of kind of weird and wonderful technical difficulties going on. So fingers crossed that we can see what's going on. So Fastlane, we had the only thing that I didn't know, because I forgot to ask Pete, and I'm going to put him on the spot here. Did you, before we kind of dive into the results in general, did you think that Damian Priest was going to cash in his Money in the Bank contract on Saturday?
No, actually, I didn't. I wasn't. No, I didn't. It didn't seem like it was going to fit. I don't think that it's there yet for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might come. I think it's going to come when no one's expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're putting all these things. Oh, that seems obvious. He's going to do it. Then he's going to do it. And I think it's going to come out because the whole purpose of that thing is to do it kind of unexpected. We've seen all these things. Well, he's right for the pickings. He's right for this. He's right for that. I think it's going to come when no one sees it coming. So
yeah,
maybe you could even do it after War Games, depending on how it comes out. And he just goes, "Well, we've got beat. I'm going to take me chances," something like that. I think it'll be out of the blue.
As it should be as well, though. Like, there's something to be said. Like, I know, like, for example, gosh, years and years ago, Rob Van Dam really kind of like set his stall, and he's like, right, one night stand, I'm cashing it in. And there's something to be said for that. I think Cena's done similar in the past as well. But those surprise cash-ins, and it is when you least expect it. That's when they're going to get those biggest pops. So for me, that's what I was kind of, I was pleased to see him not cash in. To be honest, if anyone can see the screen here, what they'll see is that the running total that you and who could have predicted, you're all actually on level pegging, and then I'm like a few behind because I had such a shocking night. So in terms of the running total for where we're at, and I suppose we're jumping to the end a little bit, you guys have all scored 22. For anyone who's catching up with this, it's a point for a correct prediction, 2 points for a title match correct prediction, and then our kind of 5-pointer, a specific question about the event. Will something happen or will it won't? So all of us, with the exception of David, had said that we thought that Damian Priest wouldn't cash in his Money in the Bank contract. So we all get the 5 points there. We all correctly predicted John Cena and LA Knight versus the Bloodline. That was the only match that I got correct the whole night. So while it was an enjoyable event, it was good. It was soured for me by the fact that my predictions were proper shit. So I mean, looking here, obviously talking about the kind of the quality of the event itself. I'd be interested. I mean, Kev, have you had a chance to check out Fastlane? Like, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was slightly under. I thought they could have done some really good stuff, and they just didn't. A typical WWE pay-per-view. Fastlane was normally just before WrestleMania, because on a Fastlane on the road to WrestleMania. I don't know why they've changed to October now. Really strange. Because they'd have road.
I wondered that too.
Yeah, but could sort of.
Yeah, a bit of a strange one, wasn't it?
But
in that sense, I think what I would say as well. Obviously, you'd said underwhelming. And that was kind of what I'd thought. Like, it wasn't a bad event by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I don't think there was a bad match on the card particularly. But I think just with the quality, the streak that WWE were on with their events, they've had some blinders this year. This was just okay. Like, it wasn't bad. it was okay. And maybe I'm soured, like I say, by the fact that I couldn't predict what direction they were going in. But I mean, anyone else, David? I mean, did you enjoy Fastlane? Did you think it was a step down from what we've seen this year?
The first match, the tag team match, I thought was excellent. And then, even though my prediction was wrong, but then it stayed at a plateau. It stayed at the same level the whole way through, and you could go away and come back, and you'd be none the wiser.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've given you that prediction because you did say Cody and Jay, but you said it would be a DQ. But I think we agreed that it was just on like the decision rather than like the manner of winning. So I think you didn't think the titles would change hands, but you did think that they'd win. So I did give you it, because obviously that's not part of it. But I feel even like Lashley and the Street Profits, like I really felt, to be fair, if I'd thought, because the question about Damian Priest was nearly, is Carlito going to turn up? But I thought that the Damian Priest question was probably one that was going to kind of cause a bit more sort of back and forth. If I'd really thought about it and thought, well, if Carlito's coming back to be the third man, it wasn't likely that they were going to lose. But it seems a shame for Lashley and the Street Profits to not be, with this new pair, and Street Profits get a bit of a makeover in terms of their gimmick, and it seems a shame that they've not got that big win to get them off to the races yet.
I think they need to build them up more to start off with them.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Kevin? I mean, do you agree with David? Do you think we need to build them up more? Do you think that there's more that needs to be done than just kind of putting them in 6-man tags?
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Street Profits. I thought they were amazing in NXT. Like when they first started, and that they always got a pop with the fans and stuff. And I don't think they need Bobby Lashley. I think they could do it by themselves if they were given a chance. I don't understand when they come up to the main roster, put like sort of pair NXT talents with wrestlers, and they're a really good tag team, like they're really believable as well. And yeah, I don't know why they insist on putting them with other people on the main roster, because I think they could really go for it by themselves.
And that probably is quite a common thing. It's almost like getting the rub from the more established guy, isn't it? Like, they've, even like, and although I quite like these guys as a team, like putting Grayson Waller with Austin Theory and having them be a tag team, or, having Bailey, have the other two come on board as part of Damage Control, and which leads us nicely kind of into the women's title match, I think. And although I'd gone with Asuka, I was really pleased to see Io retain, because I did think it was too soon. But I just thought the moment I saw Asuka on that bill for NXT on Tuesday, I thought that she was walking in there as WWE Women's Champion. I mean, Peter, what did you think of the match? I know obviously you'd rooted for Io to win, and you got that one right.
It was all right. Like I say, it kind of fits the whole theme, the theme of the whole card. It was solid, if unspectacular, and for the longest time, not even just the last couple of years, that's what the WWE pay-per-views, PLEs have been. Again, I think the women's matches are just suffering in general of the matches are good, but there's not that extra around in terms of being given the extra screen time to build these stories, to give you that little bit more investment. If they had an extra, it was 10 or 15 minutes a week, it might just kind of help out. But like I said, don't think anybody saw Charlotte taking the pinfall. But then again, if you hear how she speaks a lot of interviews, she's always kind of keen to put over the other people in terms of getting to work with them. So it was a shock to see. But then again, if you pay much attention, maybe it's not really based on how she speaks. And she just said it does absolutely no harm for her to take the loss as well. And she's still big enough to make others get the rub, as we'll probably see in the future, I think.
And I think that's it. I think she, Charlotte Flair does get a bit of a rap sometimes, from, certain corners of the internet where it's like, Flair wins, lol, kind of thing. And, they're blatantly going to tell this story of a match, and if not kind of passing her dad's kind of record in terms of world titles. But certainly this year, I mean, obviously, this match at Fastlane, and, when we get to the end of the year, we'll talk about matches of the year. But for me, one of them is absolutely Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, because it was absolutely phenomenal. And that wasn't just, I mean, I'm a huge Rhea Ripley fan, but that wasn't just down to Rhea. It was down to the pair of them. They work their asses off. So I think so it's interesting to see that, maybe this year, the complaints that get thrown at Charlotte Flair aren't necessarily valid at this point. And maybe, we are seeing that side of it that wants to help the younger talent, knowing that, she's certainly someone who's got that potential to cross over into other stuff. And maybe she's thinking that she's nearer the end of her career than the beginning, and to, do a Cena and start sort of giving back.
Yeah, speaking of
that, it's not like Charlotte's who aren't booking the show either. If they go, you're going over, she's going to say no. I mean, I'm sure maybe this time she may have said maybe it's not the right idea, but this isn't the 80s or the 90s where the guys say, yes, I'm doing this. She's not. The argument should be, should she be getting it? Should the other people getting the shine? That's not down to her, in all fairness. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were you going to say there, Kev? Sorry.
Yeah, speaking of putting people over, I was just wondering if that Queen mantle she's got's going to be passed to Jade Cargill. Like, she's going to basically put her over, and then they'll have Jade Cargill as the Queen, what Charlotte is now. That's all I was thinking with that little skit with Triple H and stuff. I think maybe they're setting her up to put her over.
And I think it's cool, our very first item of anything back in the day, like 5 weeks ago, when we, first did this, the first news item we did was about Jade Cargill. Do you know what I mean? And is she going to WWE or is she not? And if you think in such a short space of time, not only has she signed with them, but she's appearing on SmackDown, she's appearing on pay-per-views. They're really making a big deal out of her, a massive deal out of her. And that might lead to something that I'm going to potentially wind into some conversation as we go on, but it's really nice to see, because although she's not Dean Malenko in the ring, but then who is? But I think that she's got that presence, she's someone that I enjoyed watching in AEW, but I think I'm sad to see her leave AEW, but I think she's going to be perfect for WWE. I think she's going to be an amazing fit. I think we've also got, we've got Cena and LA Knight versus the Bloodline. Again, I think we all kind of predicted the way that was going to go, as I'd said earlier. What about the World Heavyweight Championship match, Robbie? I mean, to be fair, most of us went for Nakamura, and I've got to say, I really like Seth Rollins. It's no dig at him or even the character or anything. I was pretty deflated when Nakamura didn't win after that match, simply because of the level of violence and kind of what he'd put Rollins through. And then it just seemed like the last 5 minutes, there was this quick little turnaround and Nakamura was done. What did you think of the match?
It was good. I enjoyed it. It just hit this whole broken back business now to me now makes no sense. Like you said, the violence that he was put through or the attack to his back, yet he was the one out of the two that could stand up before the count of 10. Yeah. I just didn't understand it. I wanted Nakamura to win, because I think this heel run, even though it's only been a few weeks, is already better than his last heel run.
Yeah.
So the loss didn't do him any favors, really, especially considering now on Raw he's entering a feud with Ricochet.
Yeah.
Who and does anybody actually care about that? Because I don't. Couldn't give a shit.
And I think that Nakamura, even if he'd just been a transitional champion, do you know what I mean? Even if it had been a couple of months and then Rollins had got it back, or whatever they wanted to do, I think having Rollins chase for a while, I think would have been brilliant. I think it would have really worked for him as well. And I just felt like, again, there was some fantastic moments in the match. I was really into it, and then just the last 5 minutes, I just felt it slipped away. And that, again, no dig on Seth Rollins, because again, they worked really hard. I think he's a fantastic champion. I just felt that I'd like to have seen that feud continue a bit longer, even. And I think the only way we could have done that would have been to switch the title. But again, that's just preference. In terms of how we did for Fastlane, and it's quite a strange one because of the way we do it. Obviously, we've got our 5 point there. 2 points for title matches and 1 point for just kind of your run-of-the-mill matches. It actually means that although I only got one of the matches correct and David got 3, I technically got 1 more point than him. It was just because the fact that I predicted that Damien Priest wouldn't cash in. If we look here, obviously, we had Peter got 8, Kev got 9. So, Robbie, you, for Fastlane, you won the day because you got 10. what it means is that, as it said right at the top there before we dove into the matches, you guys are all on 22, which you just couldn't make up, and I'm on 18. So next, I believe, is Crown Jewel. I believe. So I've really got to get our act together for Crown Jewel, and we'll kind of say what we're gonna do with that. So again, just keep following us on the pages. Obviously, we've got our social media pages, including our social media pages, including our Facebook page, Mark Side of the Ring. Obviously, we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at the moment, all over social media, thanks to our social media executive, Robbie Barnes. So, if you want to keep up with Wrestle Profit or any of the stuff that we're talking about, now's the absolutely the way to do it is to follow us on social media. Let's get into the Tuesday Night Wars, of Tuesday Night War, because it's at the moment at least one off.
Before we move on to that, I just want to say that Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso's press conference was fucking hilarious.
Oh, of course! How
amazing!
How was I about to just slip past that?
There's no words can
it really was
justice. To be fair,
no. If you haven't seen it, go out of your way to see it. Yeah. It's like we've said about Fastlane. Like, again, it wasn't a bad event by any stretch, but just a little underwhelming. Do you know what I mean? But the press conference more than made up for it. Absolutely, go off your way to check that out. Anyone who hasn't seen it, because it was fantastic. And then I had loads of people sending me clips of it on TikTok the next day as well. So yeah, awesome stuff. But yeah, let's go to Tuesday Night War. So. Interesting, because I think the night itself was interesting, but I also think that some of the fallout of it was very interesting as well. So I'm sure we'll kind of work our way to it. But, as I'm sure everybody knows, that the Dynamite was moved to Tuesday for the last week. Obviously, that's NXT's night now. They used to have regular ratings battles on a Wednesday, and AEW won most of them, as I recall. So... But there was a kind of a lot of stuff going on here that they'd moved across. I think NXT had thought, obviously now WWE's been bought by Endeavor and there's kind of new leadership there. I think there was a little bit of thought of, right, okay, let's see how this goes. So they absolutely loaded NXT, absolutely stacked it. Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Paul Heyman, The Undertaker coming at the end, Asuka, which is why I thought she was going to walk in with the women's title. Obviously, there were other main roster stars there. Dominic Mysterio was in a match. So, they really loaded the card up. But I thought that the Title Tuesday card was pretty damn good as well. So before we kind of get into kind of the ratings and the fallout of all of that, have we watched either of the shows? Do we have any thoughts on the shows? From a kind of a creative standpoint, do we think one was better than the other? I'll start with Robbie.
Well, I watched both of them. AEW were never going to win the ratings because of the star power WWE have. They have that star power to just say, right, we need you down on a Tuesday, go down. AEW kind of kept the talent that they got, so I feel WWE tried harder. There was no real storylines really in NXT. It was just matches chucked together and Cody Rhodes doing his announcement. Whereas AEW had proper solid matches that made sense. So I thought both shows were good. It just ratings-wise, AEW were never going to win that. It was already too stacked against them before they even went live.
Yeah. Do you think that they realised that? Do you think that, and I don't mean this in the way it's going to come out, because I'm not one to, because for me, I was interested to see where it was going to go. But do you think there was any part of Tony Khan that thought to himself, we're going to wake up on Wednesday morning and we'll have got 600,000 and NXT will have got 900,000? Do you think there was any part of him that thought that?
No, I mean, I think his tweets kind of prove that. The nervous breakdown
his tweets.
It was just nothing on AEW. They just haven't got those stars that WWE have had for the past 20, 30 years that can spike ratings. It's the only reason why NXT won.
And that's it. Obviously, we'll absolutely get to the tweets later, because I think that's, Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but I think in terms of the two shows, some people would argue, again, obviously NXT were bringing in, the big current stars like LA Knight was on the show, as a surprise, Cody was on the show, John Cena, who I think we've said and everyone knows, by now he is absolutely a needle mover. That if you announce John Cena, your ratings are going to shoot up. Becky Lynch is another one that, obviously the moment she started doing stuff in NXT, the ratings in NXT have gone up. So they've got these stars, that, like you say, who absolutely can. Then they've got the legacy stars, like, someone like The Undertaker, that just the gong of the bell at the end of the advert, a lot of people think, oh, The Undertaker's going to be there. I better tune in. Yeah. So all of that kind of stuff. But then AEW have got Adam Copeland, they've got Christian Cage, they've got, some great main event stars. They've got some great women's wrestlers as well. But it just seemed like the deck was stacked against them a little bit too much in terms of, they would say, well, it's Title Tuesday, we've got some great matches. WWE's like, we're going to stack the shit out of this card. I mean, David, have you managed to catch either of them yet? I mean, what did you make of them?
I've watched both. To be honest, I can't really remember much from either because wrestling at the minute just seems to be, I can't hold. It doesn't hold us as much as it used to. But I think I've totally lost my train of thought. I'll pass it to somebody else.
But that's interesting though, because does that not say something about the shows? I guess if they've stacked their cards, but for you at least, there was nothing hugely memorable there. You know what I mean? That maybe says something.
Even Cody Rhodes, he was there to make this huge announcement, and it was tag team. Is the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics coming back? That wasn't a huge announcement for me from Cody.
Yeah. So I mean, I think for me, so I haven't had a chance to watch NXT yet. I have watched Dynamite Title Tuesday. There were parts of it I enjoyed. I really like Hikaru Shida, but I'm furious that she's women's champion again, as I'm sure you all probably realised. But no, in all seriousness, like, as much as I feel they could have given Saraya a bit more of the bat, like, I also feel like Hikaru Shida could do with like a really nice run, because obviously her first one was in the pandemic. The second one almost felt like here you go, because you've not had one in front of crowds. So maybe this one's going to be like a big reign for her, where she can. I feel like she's a fantastic wrestler, but they need to maybe kind of get some kind of like stories for her and have us kind of, because the crowd love her. Do you know what I mean? They absolutely love her, and they were over the moon when she won. But I feel like they just get some good stories and stuff going on, and I think that she could have an awesome title reign. Although I was obviously very disappointed that that Saraya lost. Orange Cassidy winning back the international title. Again, a little bit of kind of hot potato with that title after he had such a long reign with it. So I'm interested to see what'll happen next. So there was some newsworthy stuff there, but then obviously we wake up on Wednesday morning, and the ratings obviously reflect that the NXT won the day. As we've alluded to, Tony Khan clearly did not take this very well. And to be fair, I feel even in the build-up to it, some of the stuff that he was posting was just on that line of, like, he almost kind of just, because I think he's about our age, maybe a bit older. I think he'll have grown up watching the Monday Night Wars, loving that back and forth of WWF and WCW, and kind of wants to recreate that for himself. So it was almost like he was trying to instigate this and try to kind of really get everyone riled up. But I feel as the week went on, the tweets got to a point where, people were saying, like, Tony Khan, you need to step away from your computer. You need to delete X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, off your smartphone. I mean, Peter, what did you make of Tony's tweets? Because I imagine you probably had quite a strong opinion about some of them.
He needs to stay off Twitter. If he's going to go on Twitter, engage in anything else. But Vince, for all his foibles, isn't going out and engaging in Twitter wars with people. Hunter's company at the Hall of Fame in 2019. Start watching those type of things. We know they've done that type of thing. being related to other things that kind of happened on Dynamite as well. Of when you're on TV, it's kind of one. The guy that runs a company, he should know. To the talent that you've got on, and don't engage in it. You know, the shot he took to go, it's the first time a TV show with less than 1 million viewers. And it's like, there's a lot of guys that have come over that you get out is being the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
On, well, ECW. Dangerous game to play because now you flip around and go Jade Cargill. 1 million viewers. It's just stupid, and it's the one thing we try to get away with. You run your put on the show, and the not well, and I think that's the word. And I get it's his baby, it's his personal, and it's his money, but it's business. And if you take your business personal,
and I think as well, I think like
Khan's a great guy, but
yeah. Yeah, I think there's an element of like, obviously there's some bits that particularly hit home for me. I think there was someone had obviously, and again we're not going to go into this too much today because I think we've said that we might talk about this as a future episode discussion if we feel that it would be relevant to. But obviously there was an angle on Dynamite, you know, that the timing of was pretty poor, involving Juice Robinson and MJF, kind of anti-Semitic vibes going on there. And AEW were rightly called out for it. Just one, it wasn't great anyway, but two, the timing of it, with everything that's happening in Israel, you know, and you know, obviously Tony Khan can't predict world events, but when it is happening and the show's running, you have to look at your creative and maybe have a bit of a play around with it again. And so, rightly, I think that they've been called out on that. And I think someone had shared an article that TMZ had put up on their Twitter, and Tony Khan private messaged them and said like, well, you didn't have to post that. And you're thinking, if you're so consumed that you're going through like everybody's Twitter posts and reaching out DMs and this, that, and the other, and saying to people like, oh, don't do this and don't hate on my company and this, that, and the other, it's almost like a really like thin skin, you know. And I think it's different with that. I love both companies. Like we said, we try to get away from that tribalism. And I think a lot of the stars, you know, to go back to Saraya, who I must mention every 5 minutes, she said in an interview recently that she was like, the wrestlers aren't like that. She was like, you know, we laugh at the people that are on Twitter because we're just happy that people are working. We're happy that there's two companies that people can work for and have a good time. Like Edge was saying, you know, I was getting messages from the office in WWE telling me how happy they were that I had this amazing debut and that I jumped over. And that's the narrative you want, and that eliminates that tribalism. But when you've got the CEO, when you've got the owner of the company, you know, calling Triple H and Shawn Michaels bald assholes before NXT starts. So, you know, and he has taken, to be fair, he was posted some stuff about kind of being with his mum when his mum was unwell, and, you know, WWE, you know, and believing that they were tampering with contracts and stuff while that was going on. So that might account for why he's taking it so personally, but it just doesn't do him any favors. And as you said, Peter, he's such a nice guy. You can tell he really cares, not just for the company, but the people in it. So, you know, hopefully this isn't a side of him that we'll continue to see, because, you know, I think that, you know, maybe he does need someone to, from a PR perspective, to rein him in a little bit, and, you know, just be like, yeah, you, Robin Barnes, social media executive, will rein him in. I mean,
sent over.
Yeah, let's what would you do? Let's give him a bit of a preview here. What would you do?
Take his fucking phone off him. That's all I need to do.
The job is yours. The job is yours.
Could this be a work though? Could he become Mr. Khan? Sort of like have an on-screen persona.
I hope not.
Arsehole CEO.
I really hope not.
There was no social media in the original Monday Night Wars, but
can you imagine?
Because I did see something really funny though. It was about Tony Khan saying he was fearing for his life, like, and everyone was booing him. And then the next one was Vince when he made himself ECW champion. When he came out to the ECW pay-per-view, he was the champion with the bandana on.
God!
Like no fucks given.
Yeah, exactly. But to be fair, you've something's flashed in my head there from what you've said, which was where I wanted to go next, and I'm really pleased you said it, so we haven't sidestepped it. Because one of the news items that Peter was talking about is obviously that, you know, it seems like, at least for now, the door is closed for WWE as far as it being an option for CM Punk. Now, a lot of the chatter has been that, you know, again, loads of stuff this week, particularly, and I don't know if it's in reaction to how Tony's been posting the fact they've lost that ratings battle or what, but loads of pictures of like Collision and Dynamite and these things with, you know, really what looks like really low crowds. Yeah. And part of it'll be because obviously some of it's the hard camera, but then some of who are saying, do you really need to like cordon off a whole quarter of an arena? You know what I mean? To like, you know, for the hard camera. I mean, even at All In, so I was quite near the ring for All In, and, you know, they did have a fair bit of that hard camera bit off, but the rest of the stadium was packed, absolutely packed. So a lot of people kind of showing a picture of Edge where it looks like he's in front of like half a dozen people, which is a really strategically taken photograph. But it does make people think, if CM Punk was still around, if he was still on Collision, if he was, you know, still a big part of storylines and stuff, do we think that would have made a difference to what happened on Tuesday night? Do we think that with Punk up against NXT, do we think that AEW would have had more of a chance?
Yeah. Personally, yeah. Because CM Punk wouldn't have been scared to take proper, deliberate shots at WWE. Since he's gone, especially Collision, I've lost all interest in it. I was watching it today and I was flicking in and out. The only really match that was worth watching was a TNT title match. The rest was just fillers, no build-up, nothing.
That's really interesting you said that, because Collision's been an excellent show from the start, but it felt like just loads of squash matches or like showcase matches. You know what I mean? So it was like there was no... and I mean, to be fair, the main event was brilliant, but there was no mystery in terms of who was coming out the winner in any of those matches.
It's like a more glamorous version of Dark and Elevation, I think.
Which is a shame, because I think, you know... And, you know, it wouldn't have just been Punk, but there was like a whole team there that were making it what it is. And apparently Bryan Danielson's very invested in making Collision like destination telly. But I certainly don't think it was last night. And I thought the same as you, actually, to be honest. But in terms of Punk, I mean, obviously, we know he's gone, he's out. That's the first time we've really talked about it on the podcast as well. I think it's just something that we've been aware would come up at some point, but maybe kind of left it until there was sort of more news to come. But yeah, the door appears shut for now for WWE. I mean, my gut says, and this is no disrespect to Punk at all, and I don't know how you feel about this, David, I think they don't need him.
My gut is telling me that he's going to turn up at the Survivor Series. They're managing to tell everybody, no, he's not coming, we don't want him. No. Then when the cult of personality hits at Survivor Series, crowd goes wild, and everybody's watching WWE again. So that's what I think is going to happen anyway.
It's Dave Meltzer that's been saying it a lot. Like, oh, it's Dave Meltzer. And he's disliked the WWE and stuff, but I think he's just trying to make him
the third Young Buck.
Yeah.
Oh, the third Young Buck. But yeah, I mean, I think for me it would be a shame if Punk's career ended, like his wrestling career ended in that way. And part of me feels as well like someone had shared some photos of AJ Lee on Instagram, like proper jacked, like she's really kind of built herself up. And I know she had a lot of problems which caused her to retire, but then it makes me think, you know, is a comeback for her on the cards potentially, which I think would be really, really cool. but yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether Punk does turn up at Survivor Series. I think that'll be our 5 point there when we get there, because I think you're right. We can throw around these like, oh, someone says the door's shut, someone says he's negotiating this, da 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 da. You will not truly know, I think, until we get past Chicago in November. And I think that, even if their minds, I mean, we're only in the middle of October now, 6 weeks is, well, however long the event is. So that's a long way away. Do you know what I mean? So I think a lot of things could happen between now and then. Yeah, exactly.
I think if he doesn't turn up at Survivor Series, then there's no comeback. I think Survivor Series is the only place he can come back.
Mm-hmm. Because I think I was thinking the Rumble, but even the Rumble, like, again, if he comes back, the expectation is that he wins it, and I don't think that's on the cards for him. So yeah, I think the next 6 weeks is gonna be really interesting to see kind of what we hear. But that's what I'd like that to happen. Like, I'd love to have it. Oh right, well, absolutely, he's not coming. The door's shut. We're all of the belief of that because we've been worked. Because that's when wrestling's at its best. Do you know what I mean? Like when people have made us. Because we think we know it all. Like, so when we don't know it all, that's when wrestling's at its best. So fingers crossed. But we'll keep tabs on that over the coming weeks. Let's move on to. So it was the season premiere of SmackDown on Friday. So obviously we talked a little bit about Collision that was on the next day, but SmackDown season premiere, and we did see the return to TV of the Tribal Chief. The our undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Now, again, it seems like they were trying to make, with it being a season premiere, they were trying to make SmackDown kind of a newsworthy show. Probably hoping to get a bit of momentum off the NXT win as well. Kevin Owens traded to SmackDown, which I think is a really good move. Kevin Owens is one of my favorites. Nice to see him get a bit of a singles push again, hopefully. I mean, what did we think about Roman's return? I mean, I know obviously my sources have been out there looking for him over the past couple of weeks. One of them texted me and said he's on SmackDown, and I was like, that's not helpful. I knew he was going to be on SmackDown. But I mean, what did we make of the show? Like, was it a good kind of continuation of the momentum that they'd set with NXT?
Yeah,
it was all right.
Yeah,
it was. For the future, we've got was that little. Are we? Jake and Cody facing against, or like staring down, obviously Jimmy and.
Mm-hmm.
Sprinkle of, LA Knight holding his. In there with Roman as well. So. Wrestling thing again, surely. But not that I don't want to say it, but it's going to be a repeat. So, how brief it was really well. Anything like that, she's just kind of walked into the screen. Person blown off, and Charlotte's like, I know who. Crowd for us. That does just enough as 3 or 4 weeks of vignettes, so to keep that ball 100 out of 100 every week. You're going to have. David made a point of before. Nothing's going to becomes a blood like you're not going to remember any of it. So I think we've done a good job with that one.
I mean, let's talk about LA Knight for a minute, because I think LA Knight's kind of trajectory has been really, really interesting, because obviously, he was Eli Drake in other companies and this, that, and the other. He'd had his time in NXT. Bit of an auspicious start when he was kind of paired with the I can't even remember what his name was, but when he was, with the Maximum Male Models.
Max Dupree.
I should have remembered. It reminded me of Rene Dupree, so I should have remembered that.
Nearly killed his fucking career.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what, a year ago, and well, maybe slightly more. And look where we are now. That he's been allowed to do his own thing. I think even kind of the feud with Bray Wyatt, the match. Like I didn't think much of the match at the Royal Rumble at all. No fault of LA Knight. I just wasn't a fan of it. But then over the year, we were thinking like he should have been at WrestleMania. When's his moment going to be? And he's just had that slow but steady ascent. I think they've been really patient in kind of building him up. And then, as Peter said, he's in the ring with Roman Reigns. It's looking very likely that's going to be the match in Saudi Arabia. I'd be surprised if he won it, but that's a hell of a starting block. I mean, David, how do you think LA Knight's doing? Like, did he feel like he belonged there with Roman?
I've loved Roman Reigns. I've loved LA Knight's build, the Reigns of the Rock in Stone Cold sort of style. But the promo he did on SmackDown, I just didn't enjoy it at all. When he told, says to Roman, "Are you pissing your pants yet?" It just felt so flat, and I don't know if the crowd even give it enough cheers and stuff. So I think it's put him on a bit of a, for me, I'll use the word again, plateau. And it's just felt a bit flat.
I think it's funny because I wouldn't say that so I've always I like LA, like I like his shtick, I like everything about him. I think it took me a while to catch on more than other people. So for me, it's the last few months I think have been really good when we've been able to see him in the ring and get the rub off Cena and this, that, and the other. I think all that's been really, really good. I mean, what did you think of the SmackDown promo, Kev? Like, did you think that it was not his best work when really he needed to shine?
Yeah, no, I agree with David. The thing with LA Knight is I can't seem like getting really over, but when they put the title on, is there going to be another Daniel Bryan moment, like the yes movement where he gets the title and it's like, right, what do we do now? Like once he's won the title, they'll be like, shit, got nothing else for him. Like whether he'll just lose it straight away or it's. I'm struggling to find out what they do with him when they make him champion, because with all the other,
yeah, I feel like for me, like I was thinking about kind of how does that happen, and it's like I don't think it's going to be Roman's title. I think it's going to be the World Heavyweight title. So I think winning the Rumble is a very distinct possibility, and I've said that before, which is why I think like a heel champion like Nakamura would have been a really good foil for him if Nakamura had a bit of a decent run between now and April. I think that would have been really good. But then you got Damian Priest in the wings with that cash in. So I feel again, perhaps if he cashes in before Christmas, has himself a nice little title reign, that that's a match I'd enjoy watching at WrestleMania. And bearing in mind it's 2 nights, obviously, and I've got a feeling it is going to be Roman and Cody. That's going to headline night 2. So that could be a nice little headliner for night 1 or kind of a sub at some point. And then that could be his moment at WrestleMania. So he's got plenty of time, I think, to kind of to claw some of that back if that wasn't the best. I mean, we've used him, talking about social media executive here, we've used him for a couple of kind of memes and stuff on our pages. Do you think he's ready by WrestleMania? Do you think he's ready to kind of take one of the titles and run with it?
Yeah, WrestleMania. Now, don't get us wrong, I like that he's getting a title shot. It's just a shame it's going to be against someone who he's not going to win against. It's just be part of Roman Reigns' winning streak. A few more months build with him, I think he'd be massive.
Yeah.
It's just a shame he's not going to win. I do think though Roman will win with interference, so then that won't hurt LA Knight as much.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward. I'm a big LA Knight fan anyway. And I actually quite like this promo. Just the like the line of where he was going for, and the crowd was saying, yeah. And then the line of, you're a defending champ. And then everyone chanted, yeah. He went, nah. That actually, I was like, you know what? I think that's what every fan is thinking at the minute.
And I think that ties us in really nicely to kind of the next part of the show. Now, Peter, you weren't here last week, but I'm sure that you're aware from watching back that my sources have been out there looking for Roman Reigns. Now, obviously, we know that he was at SmackDown on Friday, but then you have certain people, like I think it was Julia Hart a couple of weeks ago. She was on TV every time I turned on the television. Yeah. So, there's no excuse. So it's like, yes, we knew where he was on Friday, but where was Roman Reigns the rest of the week? So my sources have been out there. It's a mystery. But you know what it is? Sometimes just getting the right people in the right places, and you can find out where he is. Now, we've talked a lot about Tony Khan and his tweets and stuff. Is it coming up on the screen? Some of the pictures from my sources. I'm just going to take the laughter as a yes. So, of course, Roman was quite active on social media as well, and I think he was just trying to make sure that Tony didn't make an idiot of himself. Tony talked about those WWE trolls. A lot of them were probably Roman Reigns, to be perfectly honest. So he does still fly the WWE flag. Still flies the WWE flag when he can. But what's he been doing the rest of the week? Well, he has been auditioning for This Morning. Now, people in the UK will know that Holly Willoughby has stepped down as host of This Morning. They need a new host. And Roman thought he would be a great fit with Alison Hammond. I don't know how it went. My sources, they weren't in the boardroom with ITV to let me know how that had gone. But wouldn't it be nice if we saw Roman every morning kind of, sitting with Alison Hammond and giving us all the latest magazine-related news? I think it would be lovely. He'd be a great replacement for Holly. Now, Peter, you said earlier that, whatever he'd been doing, it probably involved some Just for Men. You were absolutely correct. So, obviously, Paul Heyman's hair conspicuously went from this grey at Fastlane to a much darker colour. Roman made sure he was picking out the right one. So, you know what it is? It's not a one-sided relationship. Roman Reigns is looking out, for his wise man. And he's got the Just for Men there to prove it as well. So, again, we'll continue to do this every week. I think it's really important that we keep tabs of where Roman Reigns is, whether he's on TV or not. I was going to reserve this for, for me, if he appears on Raw, NXT, SmackDown, and a PLE, then I know where he is, right? But if he just appears on one or none of those, he needs to be accounted for the rest of the week. So my sources are out there. And if you'd like to be one of those sources, if you see Roman Reigns and you would like to send me a picture, he could be anywhere as long as it's not libelous. Please email marksidepod@gmail.com or post in the Mark Side of the Ring Facebook group. And who knows, it might be that your eagle-eyed photo of Roman Reigns appears on the show. So this is the bit I've been really excited for, and I hope I haven't rushed through the rest of it, because I am really excited to kind of find out who our 8 guests, well, I say our 8 guests, for the love of wrestling. Fantastic British convention. We've gone on for a few years now, solely dedicated to professional wrestling. Obviously, America has quite a lot of these. I don't think there's as many in the UK, but for the love of wrestling, it's certainly the big one. And, as Peter said at the top of the show, they've been teasing for a while now. At the start of the week, it was like, right, okay, we're going to announce a guest on Sunday. I was like, great, we'll talk about it. Oh, well, let's announce 2. By this morning, they were going to announce 8 guests, and that's what they've done. So they went on Facebook Live ahead of Mark's Side of the Ring starting, and they announced 8 guests. Now, I was putting my daughter to bed. I think Peter knows half of them. David and Kev, I believe you don't know any either, do you? No. So Robbie kind of checked out the live feed, and he's going to let us know kind of the 8 guests. And I'm interested to see if this affects, how quickly we're going to buy a ticket, if there's anyone that we're like, have to be there, absolutely. All that kind of stuff. I think Robbie's seems like you're pretty overall. Were you impressed with the 8? Were they all good names?
Yeah. From the clues, I didn't get any right.
I'll be interested to see if I got any right, and I'll tell you the truth. I probably won't have, but I'll tell you the truth if I did. So yeah, we'll build it up a bit. So let's start with the first one. I'll hand it over to you, and I'll let you kind of do your thing. But we'll start with the first one.
Starts,
yeah.
Is Robbie's excitement due to number 4?
No.
Oh.
So when we get there, you'll understand.
Okay. Right.
So obviously the first one yesterday was the Joey clip. I myself guessed one of the best friends, just with him being in Friends. It does tie in after now they've explained it.
My thought was Al Snow because it was his head.
I'll see if I can. Yeah, so that was the clue.
I love that episode. Love that episode.
One was Enzo Amore. How you doing?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
gotta love Enzo. You know, it is. I have a soft spot for Enzo and Cass as a tag team. I think that I wish that they'd done a bit more with them at the time, and I think the way things happened was unfortunate. But I think Enzo will be a hell of a guest. I think, you know, I think I think he'll have everyone in stitches. To be fair, so that's a good first one.
We'd have to try and get him to do a soundbite for here.
Yes.
Right, come on.
Yes, absolutely.
So the second one was the TV title, WCW version. I guess Tully Blanchard, just because he was the longest reigning. That was few people guessed that one as well. It was actually Mark Merrill.
Wow.
When I was watching the live feed, they said apparently he's one of the most requested guests, which took me by surprise.
So it's the Mark Merrow thing. Like I'm like it's like when he wrestled, I wasn't massively bothered by Mark Merrow, but it's more that, you know, I've seen stuff since that. You know, obviously, he had a really rough time after WWF, and you know, he's turned his life around. He does like public speaking, like motivational speaking and stuff. And I'd have to find a video and share it with you. But I bet he would be really interesting to talk to actually. So. And he wasn't like I could potentially have guessed Enzo if I'd thought long enough, but I don't think I ever would have landed on Mark Merrow. So that's a really that's a good pick.
No, Mark Merrow was the first ever wrestler that Vince gave a guaranteed contract to. Like
there you go.
Like Monday Night Wars, because he thought he was getting the Johnny B. Bad, like the Johnny B. Bad character, but he wasn't. Like WCW did not let that go, so that's why he become like Wildman. But yeah, it's a little fact there.
Because around the same time, that's when Mick Foley was signed as Mankind, but that was just like a opportunity. So I think there was quite a bit of obviously I think it's all tied up now, but I think a bit of bad will in terms of that. In like, well, hang on, this guy's got a guaranteed contract and I've got an opportunity. What's that all about? But it's funny how history goes, isn't it?
Yeah. So number 3 was Debbie Harry from Blondie. I think one of you's got this right in the guesses yesterday.
Sorry, I meant to say number 3.
So this one was.
You were saying about not number 4.
Nah, I'm not really fussed about number 3. To be fair.
I think I know just from this conversation. I think I know.
Maria Kanellis.
Oh no, I was totally out.
That's because apparently Blondie had a song called Maria or something.
Maria, yeah.
So that's where the clue come from. Number 4, which I didn't get until they explained it themselves, was the autumn scene. So this one used to be called Leif Cassidy.
Yes.
Al Snow.
From the Rockers, yeah, Al Snow. Yeah.
Al Snow. See, that's the one I'm most excited about so far.
So that was where the penny dropped and where it made sense. This fucking number 5 makes no sense at all to me. The French people.
Right.
Any clues? Any ideas?
Well, you see, all the guesses I had, I think, were too obvious. I was thinking, is it like one of La Resistance or
put it this way?
Or...
They're not French.
Well, that one, I thought maybe the Rougeau, like Ray Rougeau, Jacques Rougeau.
Nope. Yeah. Nope. This was actually decent. Paul Atreides, Jake Hager.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't get the French link though.
I don't.
I also
they didn't explain it.
I also realized that I've made 2 references to La Resistance in one podcast. Like, that's pretty obscure. I mentioned Rene Dupree about 5 minutes ago, and then La Resistance.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
This next one, I'm quite excited about this next one. Not as excited as the other 2. Which said he was only released a few weeks ago. Shelton Benjamin.
Ah, nice.
I think I'd like to meet him. Because like we said a few weeks back, one of the most underrated and underused talents in the WWE.
Definitely.
So this one was the Britain's Got Talent picture. I know, was it someone guessed Rockstar Spud, which was actually, yeah, it's not him. I was gonna say it was a good clue, but it's his Teenage Mike's dream.
Mike,
Trish.
Yes. How she does Canada's Got Talent.
It was obvious anyway, even though they told me that apparently I didn't know Trish was there, but
they did.
But yeah, so Trish and
Teenage Mike's very happy about that.
This last
grown-up Mike's very happy about it.
This last one got a really good. It was a good shock.
Mm-hmm.
Current AEW Sting.
Oh,
Wolfpack Sting. Yeah, and he's only there on the Saturday, so they reckon with him he sells out quite quick.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the big one for me, Sting.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always wanted to meet Sting, and I'm going on the Saturday.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Me and Robbie would talk about. We're going to go on the Saturday. I don't know. Did any of you guys have plans to go along, or were you thinking about it? Or
I do now. 1 second, I'll get them tickets.
Yeah.
I'll go. I hadn't got tickets, but it's like something I'll go to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think it should be fun, and I think a nice kind of mix of guests as well for that initial one. There's obviously still some that I'm holding out for there. You know what I mean?
But they reckon they're gonna the next few weeks drop more as the weeks go on.
Yeah.
They were saying they're trying to get Lita, but there's something something stopped her from signing or something like that. So she might be there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the reunion with Trish, then I suppose.
Yeah.
But with Sting going, I'm expecting Darby Allin to be there. I would have thought. And you never know, Adam Copeland. It's nothing stopping him now.
No. Like Shelton Benjamin, ain't no stopping him.
Right, yeah. So overall, I thought it was a good list.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be fair, I think the experience of Anyway will just be fun, because obviously for anyone who doesn't know, like, there'll be like panels with the guests. So even if you don't necessarily want your photo taken with them or an autograph, you can go along to the panels. It looks like Sting's only going to be there on the Saturday. So, obviously that'll kind of influence different things. I wonder if they'll have a Sunday only guest to compensate for no Sting on the Sunday.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
Possibly. Because they were saying, like, obviously your entry tickets gets you in all the Q&As.
There you go.
For every single guest that's there.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Cool. But like I say, I mean, I know we've been talking to the guys who kind of Monopoly Events who run the convention. We're hoping that maybe we could get one of the guys on at some point, and obviously, talk about the convention, but just talk about wrestling in general. I think would be a good laugh and good fun. Maybe just kind of get them on as like one of our hosts for the for the week, and I think that'd be really cool. And I'd be interested to see who else they announce. Is there, before we kind of wind things up, is there anyone is like, and I'll go as far as to say, like, this could be as outrageous as you want it to be, but is there anyone who isn't announced that you like, that they're your number one, that if they say they're going to be there, come hell or high water, you get the ticket and you go in? And I'm going to start with Davis.
Flair.
I
very much doubt he would, because he needs far too much money to pay for his alimony. But if Ric Flair was there, I'd be there.
Have you seen the video? It went viral a few months ago of the woman who goes up to him and she says, "I have no idea who you are, but my friends tell me that you're famous, so can I have a photo, please?" And he's like, "Absolutely not." Absolutely not. Fair play. So David's going for Flair. How about you, Kev? Who would be your number one to rock up at for the love of wrestling?
Marty Jannetty.
I'd heard Marty Jannetty was going to be there. I genuinely heard. Weirdly, I was watching his Dark Side of the Ring last night. Weird coincidence.
Especially,
but I heard he was going to be there.
Especially South going to be there. They were basically new and improved Rockers for a while.
New Rockers reunion.
So I like Jannetty's just like you could write a whole like set of stars. Well, not Jannetty's been up to meet him. I was the Rock as well. Like Mark Jannetty and Shawn Michaels and hot tags, and that was the really got hooked on wrestling. So yeah, I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
The only thing with Jannetty is Q&A. You're just thinking, did this really happen?
Yeah.
Well, it's again
watching that Dark Side of the Ring. They said you can't believe about 90% of the shit that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah. Well, that was his like best mate.
Yeah.
So yeah, how about you, Peter? Who would be your number one if they were going and that was secure your ticket?
Like anyone, like unrealistic, not like I've got to.
Yeah. Go for it.
It's Punk. Really. I think it's Punk.
Mm.
I would think just if it was in terms of maybe want to just maybe chat with them, I think I'd like to chat, or him or MVP is kind of even things. So there's people I just like to have a general chat with, not even about wrestling, just to chat with.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be Sasha Banks, just because if she was come, I'd be forced to buy a ticket for so that would be between Punk and MVP, and then Sasha Banks. Mercedes Moné, sorry.
Mercedes Moné. I thought with the money clue, but that was probably too simplistic. But I wondered if that was going to be her. But never mind. And how about you, Robbie? Who would be your? I mean, it sounds like you're going anyway, but you know, if you were on the fence,
Jericho.
That's a good shout. I met Jericho when I got VIP tickets for a Fozzy gig in 2015, and it was really funny. Like he was really nice, but it was my mate was about to emigrate to Canada about a couple of months, and he was like my gig buddy. So I says, right, it's our last gig, VIP tickets for Fozzy. Now, Rich Ward is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, by the way, who's the guitarist of Fozzy, just in case anyone's ever had the pleasure. He's such a nice guy. Jericho was too, and but it's like they were signing stuff, and my friend says, "Oh, he says, Chris, I'm emigrating to Canada in January," and it was more just thinking he's Canadian. He'll probably be like, "Oh, that's cool," and he was like, "Oh yeah, well, I don't live in Canada anymore," and he was like, "All right, okay," as if he thought that like he was like, "Oh, can we be mates?" And then he said, I think one of the other band members had said, "Where are you moving to?" And at the time,
Winnipeg, you idiot.
It wasn't. It was Victoria, and he was like, "Oh, well, I'm from Winnipeg. That's miles away." And it was like I think Jericho had thought he was trying to be like, "Oh, I'll be your mate in Canada," and he was like, "No, it's fine." And to be fair, like although you got like a proper photo with them, my friends at work at the time had been like, "You have to get a selfie with Chris Jericho." And to be fair, he wasn't very well as well. I remember he had like a bit of a cold and stuff because his voice was a bit rough on the night. But he took the time and he did all that stuff. And this is going to sound like a weird observation. His hands are massive. Chris Jericho has massive hands. So hopefully they'll announce Jericho sometime, because I think he'd be an awesome, he'd be a massive guest for a convention like that. He'd be awesome. Yeah. I've already had the pleasure of meeting Mick Foley, so I'm not going to say Mick Foley. I think if it was anyone, like for me, for this, like I'm hoping the Mick Foley announces, because for those who may not have heard, like when I met him 10 years ago, I took one of his novels to be signed rather than like a wrestling related thing, and talked about how I wanted to write a novel. And he was like, really, "Oh, you totally should." And he inspired me to write my first novel, which is out now. So he's even in like the forward where it's like, "Thank you to Mick Foley for inspiring me." So I want to be able to meet him and be like, "You probably don't remember, but 10 years ago, you inspired me to write a book. Here is the book." So that's why I really hope that he is going to be there. But I think for me, other than that, like if there was anyone who I hadn't met, it'd be Stone Cold. I would absolutely love Stone Cold to be there, but I'm aware that that's a massive pipe dream. But I think it'd be absolutely awesome to meet him. I think that'd be brilliant. Have we got any predictions? Anyone else that we think's a dead cert before we wind up?
Sean Morton.
That's a good shout. I love Nash.
I do. I would love Nash to be there because he's another one I love to talk to. But I just think I think he'll go to them, but I don't think he's necessarily in the space to travel abroad yet.
I think he was there. He was there last year or the year before. So he has done them. I would like Edge and Christian.
That would be mint, like. That would be mint. And I think that's probably, maybe, if not this year, I do think there's probably a point they'll do that. I think they've got to. But on that note, obviously, we'll keep, as Monopoly events keep announcing them, we'll keep talking them over. Hopefully, we will get someone from from the convention on the show. I think that'd be really cool. And yeah, as always, we'll just keep cracking on with all the wrestling news. Thank you very much for joining us as always, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Yeah.
I always like doing the Randy Orton thing. Are we done? Are we done?